a lot of people don't honor their culture.
She said it. Don't get mad at me.
It.
No, people that was, darker than me, skin tone wise, be like, I know black. You're talking about how great regular black folks are and how nobody's ever been lazy.
We got to stop that poor stuff.
Pause is never going to die. And we're back. Another episode of the Savoir Brooklyn podcast. It's your boy, Patagonia Lattes, but I did switch to cortados. I'm still a king of quarter zips. I have a very special guest here. Knew her back in college. She was getting fly and did her 1-2 thing. And now she's out here getting a whole bunch of STEAM and STEM edutech money. Who we have here today?
I'm Yaritza Villalba. Yes to the EdTech money. I am the CEO and founder of McKenzie's Adventures. We're a global EdTech company working with schools and organizations across 6 continents.
So all you educators, anybody in the EdTech space needs to holler at her. But yes, I went to UAlbany with this dope lady with a dope company, and I wanted to bring her on this podcast to talk about all the things she's doing in a very important space for our people and for the culture. She's also a native Brooklynite too. But, to kick our conversation off, we were just talking, and what she was telling me is that she judges or she lumps people together based on where you actually born, right? So, she is a star baby. Shout out to the star. But you were just saying that if you were born in a place, that's where you're from. So if I'm born in Brooklyn, but my family is Grenadian, that makes me American or Grenadian American?
You are American. You are American. Your passport says USA. I think it's just, I don't know if it's a bad habit, but it's a habit of mine because we tend to take our culture with us based off of our experiences. So I have friends that claim to be Jamaican, but have never been to Jamaica, but their mother is from Jamaica. You're not Jamaican, you're American, right? I have a daughter. She was born in America, but I was born in Panama. My family, 92% of us were born in Panama. The first round, only 12 of us came from Panama in 1991. So my daughter's American. She was born in America, although her father's Jamaican and I'm Panamanian. She was born in America. And I think it's the same with most people, especially in Brooklyn. If your family is from a particular place, but you were born here, you're born here, especially because now, and this is just based off of my experience, a lot of people don't honor their culture, right? Whether that's in language, whether that's especially if you're religious, in prayer and how you pray or how you give back to your community, you don't honor it. So why are you kind of like bigging it up and saying that you're from a place where you're not holding truth to those values?
So listen, bad men forward, bad men pull up. I didn't say it. She said it. Don't get mad at me. It. No, because people be in the comments. People be in the comments going crazy over shit I say on here, and I'm just like, bro, like you're triggered, right? Yeah. So if y'all want to get in the comments, get mad, fine, right? But we were talking about off camera, foundational Black Americans culture, your culture being Panamanian, and I was joking about how I grew up around Panamanians, and I remember like the ball chain that y'all, which. Is that retired? Because now I don't see it anymore. Like
it still exists. It's just a lot of folks back in the days, they were like, the first people to do it. You have like the older men doing it, especially with gold, knowing exactly how to curve it. Now you got their grandsons and sons, and it's just not the same. Plus, the price of gold went up, right? So if one of my friends is listening, stop asking me to bring you back the chains. I'm not bringing back any chains. The price has gone up. But it looks different. So my daughter has some. She has many that my mom just brings back. And I still have the ones that I've had since I was 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's that one ball, like the brown ball chain that y'all all used to wear. I don't see it no more. And I'll be around, I'm like, yo, where the ball chain at? And people laugh, but it was that and that one gold tooth. And shout out to my Panamanians again, but I used to be in Panamanian parties. Yo, the dudes will show up with like a tiger stripe, like a fake dead tiger on his suit.
Absolutely.
With like track pants and like some Adidas. I'm like, what the like
royalty and hood.
Yo, like these niggas would, and it was so like, hey, buddy,
Gotta be Flatbush. It gotta be Flatbush.
It's in Crown Heights, actually. This is like 90 shit. It's like 98, 99. And then it'd be like, hey, buddy, hey. Like, it was so lively. But at the same time, the moment shit go left, that shit all goes away. And now is up.
Yeah.
Shout out to my Panamanians, though. Like, they were always very social, very hospitable. And you were telling me, too, that you guys are very tapped into the roots and the motherland. I didn't realize how important Panama was to the Panama Canal, and Barbados and those places are very important too. But you were saying how tapped in you guys are to your roots. Share some of how you guys think about Africa as opposed to other countries, because we were talking about Panama versus DR and how a lot of Dominicans be like, I'm not black, and you were saying something completely opposite. I think it's pretty important to share that as well.
Yeah. Well, the continent of Africa and even the culture of Africa, or the culture that our enslaved ancestors brought with them, is not isolated from who we are as Panamanians. We, in most of our even events, we dance what's called Congo, which is storytelling about, women who are kind of like going against the slave master. You'll see that everywhere in Panama. Like, literally, you'll be at my mother's house and my cousins start dancing, right? We are true to our roots. We're not saying we're not from Africa. Everything that we do is tied to that continent. Even how we tell stories, our culture, our lineage. Like, I know before we started recording, you were able to kind of like go back to who your ancestors were and how they've created businesses and own homes. Many Black Americans are not able to do that. And it's not because they haven't done the work. It's just people are not sitting down to tell these stories. In Panama, that's what we do. I sit down with my daughter every day. Plus, she has children's books that tells the stories of who we are as Afro-Panamanians and Afro-Latinas. But it's important for us to tell those stories, because then we could trace that back to Africa. I didn't need to do a test to say that I'm from the continent of Africa. I sat down. I knew my grandmother, my great-grandmother, was an enslaved woman in Great Britain. Wow. And then she herself migrated once, she had her freedom. But we were able to say, this is what happened. This what took place. This is the year that it took place, because my mother knew the story. My aunts knew the story. Their mother knew the story. Her mother knew the story. And that's how they just pass it down through storytelling. So culture is different, but we don't separate ourselves from the continent of Africa or African people and culture.
So I think it's important to share, because I be around a lot of Dominicans too. Shit, I be around a lot of people. Sounds like I'm actually not that social.
I was about to say you've been everywhere. I don't
know. Nah, I'm not that social. But my barbershop used to be in the Heights, right? And the amount of time I heard nigga, and then the amount of time I heard I'm not black was crazy, because there's people that was darker than me skin tone wise be like, I know black. And even in the comments, a lot of posts about this topic, you'll see people in the comments like, y'all want us to be black so bad. And Puerto Ricans do it too, right? They'll try to separate Taino. And I'm just like, y'all don't understand that at your essence, we all came from the same roots, right? And on the Black American conversation, at times I grapple with it, because I feel like maybe my family's history is different, because we're very, especially growing up. I remember on a Saturday, I was always at somebody's house, whether it's in the Stade, a Ville, and in somebody projects in 1A or 1B, in the big park or the little park. My family was very big and very close. And I got mad cousins in the city, right? And if I went to the South, I could call right now and say, yo, I'm landing at time X, and somebody got the red carpet. All right, well, what you want to eat? What you want to drink? Like, so my family is very close-knit, very hospitable, very accomplished family. Like I said, but my grandfather's best friend was James Brown. That's not as big as an accomplishment, but they grew up together. He was the first captain in corrections that was black in the 60s. You could Google him. My uncle was a Red Tails. I have a cousin that was a boxer. Rest in peace, Vernon Forrest. And I'm just used to my family doing certain shit. But to your point, a lot of stuff I didn't learn until I was older, because the storytelling isn't necessarily always ingrained. You hanging out, not knowing that cousin that don't come around as much is a little bit more quiet. He's the architect, and he ain't coming around because he ain't. It's not that he's better; he's just busy. And now I'm the cousin that don't come around as much because I'm, busy as hell. But I do think there's a certain amount of we got to get back to storytelling and preservation of history, because if I knew now what I knew back then, I'd have carried it a certain kind of way. I'd have had a certain kind of pride outward, because I wouldn't have thought of myself as just regular black. I would say, oh shit, nah, I come from a certain lineage. I'm aware of that. And on the real estate tip too, I do think that we have to get back to, I don't know if it's too late in Brooklyn, right? But with the advancement of gentrification, there has to be a way for people of our culture who have homes to pass down that generational wealth, because real estate is one of the biggest wealth preservation tools you can use. But if Kim ain't got the sense to pay the taxes and pay the water bill, I can't get mad at the T-Shop Post for snatching that shit up if we're not. And you actually said this earlier too. I didn't think about it that way, but it's like we got to take some of the onus on ourselves and not just sit there and say, like, yes, there's situations where people are snatching deeds and doing a lot of fuckery. But what are we doing in the age of information to preserve our wealth as a people? What are we doing to preserve our communities? It can't be every black restaurant has the same issue in terms of, oh, it's a bad landlord. Nah, it's bad service and your restaurant sucks. Like, stop playing victim, right? At some point, you got to take the onus. Shout out to Green Room. I was over there last week. They were great. And also shout out to TGK. I was there last night with my dude, Aaron. Great spots. But at some point, we have to take accountability and stop playing victim and stop saying, woe is me, right? And you were saying coming here from Panama and seeing certain things, because back when I was younger, I would get defensive if someone said, oh, my country is X. Like, so go the fuck back. But I'm also realizing it's like people from places like Barbados and Panama who have a certain kind of understanding about who they are, when they get here, it's like, yo, we lit, like, let's move like we lit.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, we're a victim. But also sometimes y'all come here and y'all go to the hood first, so you're around people in generational poverty who've never had the thought process of doing more. Like, I know people that have never left Brooklyn, which is crazy, because never went to Manhattan. And when I was a kid, my pops, rest in peace, would always be like, yo, we going to Statue of Liberty. I'm like, I want to do that shit. I want to go to fucking Empire State Building. But now I drag my kids everywhere. It's like, yo, we going to the museum. We going here. I'm like, yo, this shit is free, and we in the greatest city in the world. Like, take advantage of this shit. But there's so many people that I grew up around that never left Brownsville or never left Brooklyn. Like, the most they would do would be Obi Square Mall or Fulton Mall or shopping on Pickin. Come on, we lit. I got the block. Or they go to Rikers. Oh, I got the house. I got the phone. Shit that don't matter in the grand scheme of things, right? So, but no, I think you bring a very interesting perspective. And you a star baby. Please tell Mano and Papoose to lay off 50 Cent with these diss songs.
I have nothing to do.
It's getting out of hand.
This. No, but I mean, we came to this country March 3rd, 1991. That's when we landed. We came and we lived directly on Putnam Avenue, Nostrand. If you're from Putnam Avenue, Nostrand, shout out to y'all. But we lived in 300, right?
And they rock.
What's crazy is it was 12 of us living in a one-bedroom apartment at first. Those times will humble you. And I've heard
12 in a one bedroom?
12 in a one bedroom.
Wait, so in the words of Ghostface, 2 at the foot of the bed, 2 at the head.
Absolutely.
Was John peeing in the bed?
Everybody was peeing in the bed.
12. Wait.
Everybody was peeing in the bed.
12 in a one bed.
But this is the essence of storytelling. When I came, I was 3.
Wait,
right?
Time out. I don't want to interrupt you, but
12 in the bed.
Is this like a pre-war building that's mad big, where basically that one bedroom is like a 2?
The thing about coming into a country that's unknown to you and your family is you make do with what you have. When we came to this country, and I think that for those people who normally say go back to your country, you have to really think about what are the push and pull factors. Some people come to a country or they migrate not because they want to, but because they have to. When we migrated, it was after America invaded Panama, right? So they was looking for Noriega. They bombed our buildings. The way we were living for a couple of months, we were like literally surviving off of water and sugar and bread. those are the situations that then has parents rethinking, do we really need to be in this kind of situation? My grandmother was already in America. My grandmother tried 3 times to come to America. She finally went through Mexico. She landed in California after a while of working at this plastic factory shop. She came to New York and she had the 1-bedroom apartment. So it was technically her apartment. But the one mission my grandmother always had was to bring her daughters and her daughters' kids to America legally. So when we came as permanent residents. We had paperwork. So yes, 12 to 1-bedroom, but that only happened for 1 year. After that, we moved into a 4-bedroom in the same building. And then 3 years after that, my mom was the first to move out with her kids. And we ended up living on Green and Tompkins. When we came, it was a mission. If it took us having to live in a 1-bedroom apartment with 12 of us while my mother and them went to work and they swapped out, it worked. I look at where we are now. Nobody in my family has been arrested. Nobody in my family I could call them and they'd be like, oh, I'm just broke. I can call my brother right now and say, yo, I need $1,000. And I'm not just throwing it out there, but I'm just saying we did what needed to be done. My mom retired from the DOE 2 years ago. She moved back to Panama. She didn't want a house in America. But that's what we do, right? So when people migrate, they don't migrate because shit looks fun in America. We know some of y'all are struggling, but when we came to Putnam, we were welcomed with open arms. And that's why I always give a shout out. In my second children's book, I gave a clear shout out to Putnam because the people from Putnam, the families, they brought us in and was like, what y'all need help with? Right? These are people that I'm still friends with today. These are people that I had my daughter's birthday party at Putnam's block party last year because that's just how close we are as a community. And so people need to really think about, why did this family move to America? Why are they moving specifically in Black and brown communities? Because I knew we moved there because that's the place where my grandmother had an apartment. It was affordable. But even after we kind of like got some money, and my mom at first was working 4 jobs. I remember they had a chicken spot on Nostrand. That was one of her jobs. She used to work there overnight. My mother would come home, get us ready for school, drop us off, and then go to her next job. My sister would take us home. My sister's responsibility was to cook for the house. Her and my other cousins would take turns. By 7, I was already cooking. Those are cultural values.
Side note, the shit you be posting on the gram, I don't eat pork, but the shit you be posting, I'm like, God damn, this shit be looking crazy in a good way. I'm like, damn, like on a Sunday, it's like 5. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
But that's survival. Right?
That's not survival. The shit you be posting on the gram is not survival.
No, I'm talking about my,
that shit's not survival.
I'm talking about my past experiences. No,
that shit is opulence.
The shit I post on the gram is, look at me now.
It's opulence.
I got a whole fish. Yeah. I don't got to share with nobody. But once again, humble beginnings and people having to understand that I know who I am. My sister knows who she are. My brother knows who you are. Because we came from Panama, but my mom would always say, this is who you are. This is where you came from. Every summer, I literally went back to Panama. We spent our summers in Panama. So when everybody else was bragging about the camps, I was like, camp? What? I live across the street from the beach. I'm going home. I'm going to see my father. I'm going to see my sister and brother because, of course, on my father's side, I got a sister and brother. But it was about being able to go back to the place where I can freely speak Spanish. And people are embracing me. And people understand that when my hair gets wet, it's going to look rough. But baby, my aunt is about to snap this back into some braids. So, I mean, you know, people have to understand that. And I could go off on a tangent, but I'm not because we just started.
Nah, so that's important context because I'm in East Flatbush now, right? And my wife is Bajan. So prior to, being around her, I grew up in Brooklyn around, like, when you grew up in Brooklyn, you grew up around Africans, African Americans, Panamanians, Jamaicans, Haitians, right? You don't understand the differences. Yes, there's names like Jean-Pierre and Fabiola and Fatou. Don't get mad saying, but Haitian names is crazy back in the day. I knew mad Jean-Pierre's and
Jean-Claude.
It was mad Jean-Pierre's and shit like Haitian booty scratcher and African booty scratcher was shit that I've said myself. And some of my closest friends are Haitian and African, right? But you are around so many people and you don't understand the differences. Like, yes, the Haitians always wore a uniform and didn't have haircuts. No offense to you. You my guy. I'm cool with mad Haitians, right? Because I got Haitian friends that will see this and get mad. Like, what are you talking about, right? Y'all do get fly and all that. But back in the day, in context, I don't understand. Yo, this nigga never got a haircut, right? And certain girls had mad barrettes in their head, like they did certain shit. I'm
Me
like, the
too.
fuck, right?
I had
But
candy in my hair.
What?
My mother would send me to school with candy, so in replace of the barrettes. Best times of my life. Fuck.
was it-
I'm in class taking it out to eat it.
Oh, okay.
Good night.
Listen, immigrant.
It was snacks or
Immigrant. I don't think it was meant to be snacks, but I would be in class
Got it,
like
got
in
it.
elementary school, like
got it.
roll this off.
But you know, the one thing I've heard repeatedly, I think Bajans are different because growing up, I knew a lot of Jamaicans because it felt like they were the most. Which funny enough, by numbers, I've told the most Caribbean people in Brooklyn are actually Grenadians by numbers, right? But they cool as fuck. Shout out to the Grenadians, but that narrative, oh, blacks are lazy and they don't want to do shit. I've heard that, and my pops, you know, it's funny because my family, most of my pops was always like, yo, these fucking coconuts, they come in here and think they Billy Badass and this and the third. And it's not that he hated Caribbean people. I think he hated the narrative of folks coming here saying we lazy. He's like, yo, if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't have the ability to come here. And then I unpacked it when I got older because I was around more Caribbean people that would be on some, oh, blacks are lazy. And I'm like, no, you're moving into the hood. You're not moving into Buckhead or Martha's Vineyard and meeting opulent black people. You might just be around people who are not as geared towards movement. And I'm not saying that there's no truth to that because they're all generationally poverty, like the generational poverty and people that are lazy as fucking the projects, right? That is true.
Not all.
Not all.
Not all.
My family, the
but
projects.
most.
My family, most is more than half. My family in the projects. I got one cousin. Shout out to, I'll say her name. Shout out to Renee. Worked in postal for like 35 years. Never took a day off. Ever. Ever. Her son, my older cousin DJ, shout out to him, went to Brooklyn Tech ahead of me. Went to Syracuse after that. And she still is heavy in Gowanus. She runs like a dance and a step team out there. Shout out to them. My cousin's best friend was Nicholas Haywood, who got killed by the cops in like 92. They were play fighting in the staircase, and a cop came down and shot him because he thought he had a real gun. This playing cops and robbers with like a toy gun. But my family in the projects weren't lazy. But I've also been around people in the projects and not in the projects that are lazy as fuck too. So I think the narratives are, like I'm saying, also say that I think the narratives have to end because it's not helpful to our people. It's divisive. And I think when I meet Bajans and like, oh, you're different. I'm like, no, I'm not different. I come here with these narratives. And when I go to Barbados and other islands, I'm like, all right, everybody from the prime minister down is black, but y'all were under colonial rule until the 60s. So y'all really don't have, like, Jim Crow ended on paper in the 60s, but it didn't all the way end. Like, there's still shit that happens. Like, all the Klansmen did was change uniforms, right? And they put on scrubs, they put on cop uniforms, they put
Infiltrated the government.
right? So versus in you know, Barbados or Jamaica, y'all was singing the Queen's prayer and allegiance until the 60s, right? And y'all still give, like, certain places, Barbados in particular, they can't make bread if the sugar don't come from Canada or from like a British colony. So y'all still under thumb to an extent, and it's not like y'all or them, like, they don't have it better, it's just a different form. But when they come here, some do hit the ground running and they get 3 jobs and they hustle and they grind. And I respect the grind. Anybody that grinds, I don't care if you green with spots. If you grind and you hustle and you get to your bag, I respect it regardless of your why, right? My brother-in-law is Mexican and they got 3 businesses, right? Shout out to Carlito Seafood in Irvington, New Jersey, right? He started out working in a liquor store and now they got a restaurant. I respect the hustle and the ambition, but I think we got to kill the narratives of, oh, black Americans are lazy or Haitian booty scratcher. We got to kill all of that shit because at the end of the day, this is a land of opportunity, but we do have foundational black Americans that have built that foundation, you know, made the traffic light, made the air brake, made the light bulb. And we do have to get back to that culture. And I think a big part of that is storytelling, but I think it's also appreciation for what we have here and not the divisive politics. And I'm not saying that you have that. I'm just saying when I hear those narratives about, lazy blacks or this culture versus that culture, I'm like, it's not really helping us get anywhere, right? Like, it's not pushing us to a place where we can joke about it and say, all right, now let's go, like, that's funny, comma, now what are we doing to build more communities so that in the sty, like, these 3 blocks are primarily Panamanian, these 3 blocks are, mixed, these blocks are Jamaican. Right now, the sty is more Connors than Consuelas. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So what are we doing to advance our culture? Because while we sitting here squabbling about dumb shit, they, them, and everybody else is coming in, snatching these brownstones, buying them, renovating them. They taking over all these neighborhoods, and the essence of Brooklyn is dying fast, right? And the culture of Brooklyn is dying. The black community as a thing that was the umbrella for you and your family, that's evaporating, right? So in 2026, could you have like a Yaritza Jr. come here right now and land in the sty and be in that same spot? Or would you have to go to like a different...
All right, so I'm going to keep this very, very, very simple. People tend to speak on what they've experienced. Right. So like you said, like if I'm an immigrant and I settle in a place that's predominantly black, and every time I come out, most of the block is not doing anything, mentally growing up, I'm like, yo, I came from this block. It ain't nobody do nothing, right? And so when people have this, like you said, like this narrative of there's these lazy blacks, I think it's because that's what they've been exposed to. So I can't be mad at what another person has experienced or been exposed to, because that's literally what they've been around. Fast forward as adults, we always say, be around people who are going to tell you when you're wrong. Be around people who's going to speak your name in rooms where you're absent in. Be around people who's really going to like applaud you when you're doing right. Those are my friends, right? So when we have conversations about equity, when we have conversations about owning your own business, when we have conversations about, do I really need this other degree and these loans, or can I make a move this way? Those are the realistic conversations that we're having, right? I don't think that it has to be kind of like a switch on the black community, because there's going to be uncivilized people, whether they're black, white, Asian, who feel like they just want to do things on their own, who feel like they can highly depend on a government that was never created for us to begin with. That's not generational. That's literally how it's been forever in this country. Do we need to have realistic conversations about financial literacy? Yes, but we've been saying this for years. The same conversation you and I are having right now is not new, right?
At all.
I was a teacher for 11 years. So as soon as I graduated SUNY Albany, I started my master's at LIU Brooklyn. Shout out to LIU Brooklyn. And that November, I went to Boys and Girls. I loved going to Boys and Girls because my brother already went to the high.
Shout out to McKenzie's.
Yes, my brother already went to the high.
It's a dangerous place, though.
Of course. My sister went there, my cousin. So, like, I was like, I want to go to the high, too. My mother was like, absolutely not, Yartiza, no way. And I was like, I'm doing it. And I went to the high, played ball at the high, varsity, all 4 years.
You used to play basketball?
Yeah.
Wait.
All 4 years.
Did you play Albany? You didn't play Albany, right?
No.
Okay.
No. My mother was like, okay, college time, academics. Plus, I was the first one in my family to, quote unquote, go away, even though Albany was 3 hours. Yeah. I was the first. So academics was very like, you better go in and do something with yourself. I lost my train of thought.
Oh, you were talking about how great regular black folks are and how nobody's ever been lazy.
Going off on a tangent, but once again, we're at that point where most adults, especially around our age, right? I'm 38, just turned 38. Shout out to the if you're in your late 30s, but we make the decisions. I remember having a conversation with a woman. I'm not going to say her name. She used to be a close friend of mine, but we talked about just her being highly dependent on government assistance when she doesn't need to be.
I like how you put that, like former friend, because I have mental funerals all the time for people, right? Like,
oh yeah,
former friend, highly dependent. Yo, like, people be lychee martinis in spirit. They are entitled and expect somebody to carry them. And from a young age, my pops imparted on me is like, yo, you a man, son. And I'm like, Dad, what are you talking about? Like, I'm trying to eat my Fruit Loops and watch G.I. Joe and shit, right? But it's like, even my son, I talk to him now, he's 6, turning 7. And I talk to him like, yo, son, like, even this morning I was telling him, I'm like, yo, you gotta go back to karate. He was like, I don't want to do karate. I said, well, listen, what do you do if somebody's bullying you? I'm gonna chappelle him. I said, you joking, but I'm not. Like, tuck your elbows in, make a fist, etc. And I'm like, listen, I'd rather the principal call and say that you defended yourself, and the principal call and say that you hurt.
Yeah.
And I told the principal and the vice principal and everybody else in your school, my kids are gonna defend themselves. Mm-hmm. So they're taught to fight back. Well, no, they're taught to fight back, right? So if you got a bug out in the school, my kids are not gonna be the victim, right? And what my family told me was like, I'd rather them call and say that you're in the box than them call and say you're in the box.
Yeah.
Right? Defend yourself. All of that, like, as a man, you got to just carry it a certain kind of way. And to your point about your friend that you had the mental funeral for, I can relate to that too, because nobody's coming to save you, right? There's other cultures that can get by off welfare and take over school board.
Because I don't want people to tune into this podcast and feel like we're just bashing Black folks or Black Americans. We're talking in general, right? There's some of us that depend on the government when we shouldn't. And then we're mad, especially at this presidency, even though we're not going to talk about politics, we're mad at the decisions that impact us the most. If you weren't dependent on something that is free, meaning you didn't work for it, and somebody rips it from you, it was technically not yours to begin with, right? It's kind of like, I'm giving this to you so that you can settle, so that you can be okay with your living situation, or you can be okay with not having to work. When you have a degree, or your kid is looking up to you. You talked about having your father. There's so many kids in situations where they don't have their father for so many reasons, not just that the father has committed a crime, but for so many reasons. And they don't have that male figure to say, yo, you gotta protect yourself. I am kind of like the total opposite. I have a daughter, and I always said that I fought so that she doesn't have to fight. Right. Growing up in Brooklyn, y'all know what it is. We fight, and I was definitely a fighter, but more so, I'm doing everything now in regards to my job, well, my company, in regards to being an author, in regards to making money, so that she doesn't have to choose colleges based off of what I could afford.
Because that's another thing too, right? Like, we push our kids for more. I can't tell you how many people I've heard of where it's just like they went through prep or ABC or whatever else, and they get into Wharton or they get into Stanford or whatever school. It's like, Mom, Dad, I did it. It's like, okay, great. We can't afford for you to go there. So what's your safety school? Right? Fuck you mean safety school, motherfucker. Right. Like, prep took my summers, like, took 3 summers, and now you telling me I gotta go to York?
Right.
Right? So I love that, because that's really what the evolution is supposed to be about. The evolution should be giving our kids what we didn't have, both information-wise and economically, right? And the reason why I talk about my kids a lot on this podcast, too, is because I played baseball in Starrett City. My parents split, so I had to stop playing because it was too hard to get to the games. Mm-hmm. And I make sure now I coach my kid. I go to every game. His practices be like Thursday at 6, middle of my fucking day. I'll block my calendar and go. Mm-hmm. I might have my laptop on the side still doing shit, right? But I make sure to get him to what he got. And my daughter plays tennis, and she got to go to Huddy on a Tuesday. Middle of fucking East, that's like Nostrand and like Avenue, whatever. And get over there, right? Because that's, everything you're saying is hitting, because it's very important. And you have touched on and touched around the business. No Diddy, no R. Kelly, right?
Touched on, touched around. I didn't even think about it that way till you said no Diddy. See?
These days.
See what the men don't say? We got to stop that pause stuff.
Pause is never going to die. Pause is never dying. That's never dying. Pause games is funny. I don't care what nobody say. Pause is always going to be funny. I got gay friends that they're okay with pause too. So if my gay friends is okay with it,
everybody should be okay.
Yeah, everybody should be okay with it. If the gays say okay, it's okay. Mm-hmm. But I was gonna ask. You already answered it. So you went from DOE into entrepreneurship. What clicked for you that make you want to go into entrepreneurship? Like, what was the thought process? What was that transition like? No, Bruce Jenner, and I'm trying to be serious. You're making me laugh. Come on. But yes, what was it like? What was it about? Education, or like what clicked in you to make you want to just launch your company?
All right, so backwards. I didn't jump into my business straight out of the DOE.
Okay.
So I was teaching for 11 years. I taught overage undercredited students. So I had 16 to 21-year-olds that were reading on a fourth grade reading level. Not all of them, but most of them.
Wait.
16 to 21-year-olds
in
reading.
High school still?
Yeah.
Wait.
So
a 21-year-old nigga in high school is crazy.
New York state law is that a kid has to the age of 21. So if they turn 21 while still in school, they have to finish out the year. But the idea is for them to get a high school diploma as opposed to a GED.
Wait, time out. I'm not trying to be funny all the way. I'm trying to be halfway funny, but
you better not be, because some of my students are probably going to look at this show. So
okay, no, I'm not trying to be funny, right?
Watch what you say.
I'm not trying to be funny, but how is it possible for somebody to be 21 in high school, right? Because I graduated high school. I should have graduated at like 16, but I did the whole 4 years of 18 because tech you can't graduate early, right? How is it possible for somebody to be 21 still in high school?
Oh, that's an easy question to answer. You got some of these teachers that don't really care about kids, right? And I know there's this thing on Instagram or social media where teachers say, well, this kid isn't equipped to be in my class, or I just can't do it. The parents have to be more involved. But the reality is some teachers get into the profession because they're thinking about having their loans forgiven. There's a such thing as white flight. You have all of these white teachers coming into the hood in our neighborhoods to teach our kids because they know after 5 years of teaching in an underserved school or under-resourced school, they're going to have their loans forgiven, right? And then they leave and then they work in Long Island or wherever. And so you have that. You have it where the curriculum was never created for us. It wasn't even created with the intentions of serving us. So we were put into these classes and these spaces with these resources that don't align to who we are as individuals. And then you got standardized testing that's based off of whoever's writing this. I need you to look me in my eyes. Based off bullshit, right? Because you're not really assessing students making connections on being critical thinkers. You're assessing recalling information. And now if I was a person that didn't do good with tests and made me really nervous, I'm about to forget what I just crammed for this semester. Or in my students' case, we had an open door policy. So I would get kids even a month before the Regents or the AP exam. Literally, right? So those are all the factors. But I was teaching 16 to 21-year-olds reading on the fourth grade reading level. I do not blame the kids for reading on the fourth grade reading level. I blame whoever was the elementary teacher, and I blame the parent. Because at a young age, it is not the kid's fault. It is how you are supporting your child. My daughter's father, we are not together. But when it comes down to instruction and pedagogy, you would think that she would come to me since I'm the educator. She hates it. But I think it's because I'm stern. He makes everything into a song. He's very playful. So, all right, let me teach him Azul y Verde y Rojo, and then let him teach it to her. Because that's how we work. That's our system. But it's our duty at home to make sure that she has a tool so that when she's in class, Miss Sam is not saying, hey, Mackenzie is mispronouncing words. Absolutely not, right? And so I started teaching, and as I was sharing a lot of my strategies, I would go online. I would say a lot of things on Twitter about anti-racism. I would say a lot of things about teachers pushing kids through that should not have been pushed through, or giving kids IEPs that don't really need an IEP. They just need somebody to sit down with them and really go through the instruction. And I kind of like showed how I began to leverage tech in my classroom. So we would have what I called Miss V's game days. So Fridays, the way I did test prep was I turned my classroom into like an arcade. So there was like 5 to 6 different stations, and kids would play games that's related to the topic. So if it's like World War II, that means I went on Amazon. I done bought a World War II board game, but we had iPads. So the kids would do like Kahoot, which is kids use that now for multiple choice questions. On the Promethean board, I had Jeopardy. So we like even the the assistant that was there, she knew what I was teaching. She knew where she should be to help the students out. And then I had VR glasses. So if we're talking about World War II and I need you to know about technology, the best thing to write about on a Regents is the advancement of weapon, right? So with VR glasses, I would have my kids shooting. And all you hear in my class is, oh shit, duck, oh shit. And the principal would come in like, what happened? And I'm like, oh, he just in the field in World War II.
So where was you at when I was in high school?
I don't know.
Right? Because in high school, I posted this the other day, right? The teachers back in the day looked like Sylvester Stallone with a wig on.
I can't take you nowhere.
Dead ass, right?
Well, think about it this way. I was 21 teaching 21-year-olds. So I came in and then I taught so when I went back to teach, I taught back in boys and girls and I graduated from boys and girls. So I already knew some of the curriculum was bullshit. So I came in basically saying, yeah, this is the same shit y'all taught me. Let me switch it up. I had a supervisor who at that time was an AP and she was like, if you could get the kids to pass, you can get whatever you want. And that's so lit. From there, that's how I got so much tech. Like people would come into my class and so what I ended up doing one summer is working with the custodial staff to turn 2 classrooms into 1. That's how big my classroom was.
Oh, you knocked down the wall?
Yes. And then that whole summer, what I did was I turned my classroom into the African American Smithsonian Museum.
That's fine.
So like the wall was a timeline, right? And at that time, it ended in Barack Obama, his presidency. One wall just showed like a line graph to just think about the economy. But if kids really paid attention, it was literally the chronological order of the Regents exam, right? So from our first peoples in migration, and then a little over about where my computers were was the civil rights movement, and then the end was obviously Barack and his economic plan. And that's how I taught. It would always be, if you got a question, go to the timeline. And so those support systems. But while I did that, I caught the attention of Microsoft. And
heard of him.
Yeah. And I remember putting on Twitter, hey, I think it's time for me to consult with tech companies. And I got so many DMs. And the one that I was looking for was Microsoft, specifically the Microsoft Flip team. At that time, it was called Flipgrid. And they were like, we love what you're doing. We actually want to give you your own show. And I was like, you're going to pay me to say the shit that I'm already saying? And I had full creative ownership. So it was called Ask Yaritza, Culturally Responsive Teaching. It was opened up to teachers around the world. And they would ask me questions. And every Monday, I would choose one question out of thousands of questions submitted. And I would use that as the theme for that day. And then every Friday, I would create resources for teachers to use based off of that segment. Fine. So if it was computer science, if it was STEM, if it was anti-racism, if it was literature, if it was how do you increase literacy, that's what I did. And then I got pregnant. And I was like, okay, I still got a show. And they were like, yeah, people still want to hear what you got to say. So how about you come on our team full time? And I was like, no, I don't want to leave my students behind. And so I got pregnant during COVID and I was like, I got to leave my kids behind, but I don't want to go to Microsoft just yet.
Out in Washington or?
Huh? No, I would work 100% from home.
Okay.
And y'all were saying, okay, so y'all know why I eventually did leave. So I ended up becoming an assistant principal in East Flatbush. I'm not going to tell you what school. And I had my daughter, and going back to storytelling, the first thing I thought about was how do I make sure that she understands that she's an Afro-Latina. So I began to write children's books, but they're all kind of like me having a conversation with her. This is who you are. You came from, everything started in Africa, blah, blah, blah. Became assistant principal. Didn't even last a year. I was breaking up fights. I remember my arm got twisted so bad from a brawl that I had to stay out for 2 weeks.
Was it junior high school or high school?
High school. East Flatbush.
I know what high school that is.
All I'm gonna say is on the Tilden campus. That's all I'm gonna say.
Damn it.
And so January. So mind you, this is still my first year as assistant principal. January, the one of the managers from Microsoft was like, "Come on, Yaritza, we need you full time," and I was like, yeah, my shit done got twisted up. These kids have
Fuck them
brawl.
kids.
Nobody want to listen. The principal went out on maternity leave. She didn't even tell me that she was pregnant when I interviewed. So I didn't say fuck these kids. I said fuck the system. I was already vetted, right? That was my 11th year. That March, I went full time with Microsoft Flipped, and I stayed with them for 2.5 years. I loved it. My job was to create these global cultural experiences for educators and students. So connecting classrooms from around the world together and leveraging, partnerships. I left Microsoft to start McKenzie's Adventures. When I did that, I was like, all right, I'm going to have fun with this shit. And then my friend hit me up. He was working for Samsung Education. He was like, we really need you on a Samsung America team. And I was like, no, I want to work for myself. And he's like, this shit going to be light work. We went back and forth with how much money I wanted. And they finally gave me a price that I was like, okay. I ended up staying with them until like November. Mind you, they knew I had my own business. They knew I was already traveling around the world with my business. They loved it because they said that could help them with marketing. That was a lie. So like November came and they were just like, hey, we see that, you have this post about professional development, which Samsung does offer professional development, but just not culturally responsive. And, it can come off because you're using major social media platforms. It could come off as if you're competing with the Samsung professional development offering. That was a Wednesday. Thursday, I sent in my notice to quit. This was right before Thanksgiving. I didn't think about the check. Because I got paid every Friday by Samsung. I didn't think about shit. I just thought, if you're saying that I'm competing or could potentially be competing with what you're offering, that means I'm doing something right. So I have to separate myself. And that's when I went full-time, McKenzie's Adventures. That was the year before last. Last year was just a lot of learning. It was me traveling the world and being invited to keynote conferences, but to work with students in Morocco, Ghana, Singapore, here across the United States. And I was just like, oh, I love this shit. And I love it because I'm able to be culturally responsive. I'm able to call people out on their bullshit. I'm able to say no if I don't want a contract. And it's been great. And so this year we scaled. So now I have employees here in the US. I have employees in Nigeria and in New Zealand.
New Zealand, wow.
Yeah.
That's fire. And you stay on a flight, you stay, booked and busy, no IG model. What is it? So what exactly are you, like, what is the company doing and what about it? So what I'm trying to unpack is I think that's a great story. One, I want to tip my hat to you. You survived Boys and Girls High School. You survived the high. I got friends that went there. They talk about the high like it's Stuyvesant. Nigga, you went to Boys and Girls. Relax.
Yeah.
At least your version of Boys and Girls was fun and you made it. I know a lot of people who had that, what is it, M4?
Yeah,
M3,
no, I didn't.
whatever.
I didn't. My brother had an M5.
Yeah.
He got suspended, and Mick was just like, "Yeah, we're not doing this shit." M5.
Yeah.
All you had to do is get suspended once to get a cut schedule.
So what that means is that basically, shout out to Mick, 'cause I don't know him, but I know of him. Rest in peace. They'll cut your schedule down to like 3 or 4 classes. So you cut down and it take forever to graduate with that shit. But the way niggas was talking about that shit was like they was bragging about it, right? The high, from what I was told, was an adventure all in its own. My family refused to let me go to any zone school. My zone school was Prospect Heights. I tried to go to either there or Barton, and it was I tried to go to school in the Bronx, and they was like, nah, you going to Brooklyn Tech, which I'm not mad about at all. Tech was great. But what about your journey led you to create a company focused on the offerings you provide, and what are those offerings? Like what exactly are you offering at your company?
So I remember years ago having a conversation with someone I can't name because he's a government official, and we were talking about the resource gap in the Black community, right? It's not that we don't have money, because you can find money if you really need it. It's we don't have the tools to teach kids, and we don't have the adults that are willing to be in front of kids, even when the kid is cursing them out, right? Because I know people that just be like, he said what? Oh, fuck this job. I've gotten cursed out so many times, and I'm just like, it ain't me. You going through a lot. You didn't eat yesterday, or your mother cursed you out, or because you've had a bad experience with your mother, then you think all women is bitches. I never take anything personal from kids because I don't live with them. I don't know you. I don't know you. I do the same thing with men. I get cursed out by men. I just act like my headphones is loud. But I heard you fucking call me a bitch because I didn't say hi, right?
Yo, men, stop doing that.
They do it.
Just because a woman don't want to speak to you, all that fuck you bitch and all that.
They do it.
Stop doing that. Men.
But
we gotta stop doing that. That shit is corny, man.
But my business is kind of like your one-stop shop for education and technology. What we do is, regardless of what tech tools you might need, we'll show you like the culturally responsive way to use it. So our basis is project-based learning. I believe that when you give students an opportunity to create a solution to a challenge, they're more involved in the learning process, right? So if you leverage something like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, there's 17 goals that we know the leaders of the world are trying to solve, but it's 2026. It's supposed to be solved by 2030. That shit ain't happening. Yeah. So I have kids really think about it on a global scale, and then we have conversations so that we could think about how each of those goals and challenges are actually happening within our communities.
That's right.
From there, I teach students to leverage the technology tools that their schools already have. So I don't go in saying, you got to pay for this and this and this, and I need you to download this. It's, what do you have? All right, these are the 5 that I'm going to work with because you already pay for those, right?
That's fine.
And then I complete those projects, students prototype, and then they get to pitch. Besides that, we do curriculum development. So if there's teachers that are struggling with kind of like creating culturally responsive curriculum that's tied to student identity, we go in and we do that. We provide professional development on what is culture, what is identity, how can you learn the identity of 136 students and weave it into your lesson plans and curriculum, right? Something as simple as playing music at the beginning of your lesson to understanding what students' interest is and using that as examples in mathematical equations or reading passages, right? Those are all culture responsive ways, and understanding that Black history is not just Black History Month, just like Women's History isn't just Women's History Month.
It's American history. Right? The man who made the light bulb, the first Black millionaire, Madam CJ, like, come on.
Yeah.
What we talking about here, man?
But once again, that's that resource gap, right? Putting kids in front of people and individuals who is not afraid to have that conversation outside of Black History Month. It should be moving into everything that we do, whether if it's September or July or February. And so we do that. I coach a staff of assistant principals because I was an assistant principal. Even though it was a short period of time, I've gotten a lot of experience with working with leadership and really looking at data, school data, to say, okay, these are the 5 things that we're going to focus on for the year to not only increase student engagement, but instruction, right? How do you make instruction relevant enough so that that kid that keeps coming late first period or walking out first period actually wants to sit in their seat? Because it isn't that they have ADHD. They're just fucking bored. And so that's what I do. I go in, we do all of that. We also keynote. But what's at the heart of my company is project-based learning and creating these initiatives that can literally solve some of the biggest issues in classrooms.
Yeah, that's fire. And you know, that made me think about my journey in school, because I didn't have like a bad journey. Like, I went to solid schools, but I remember all my good teachers, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I remember every teacher had like K through like 4 or 5, whatever, pre-junior high school, junior high school. I remember certain teachers pushed me and it really held me accountable. I benefited from being in like SOAR and STAR and G&T and that kind of stuff. But I just remember even in junior high school with the Scholar, and it was just like, yo, you had to, like, they held you accountable. Like, they demanded excellence. Like, there's no, oh, you're struggling. It's like, nah, nigga, step it up.
That part.
Right? In Brooklyn Tech, it was just like, yo, my graduating class was like 800 kids, right? It was like 5,000 kids in the school. You could get lost in the sauce, but like, passing for us for Regents was a 75. It wasn't no 50. Nah,
55.
It was 75. And if you ain't get a Regents diploma, niggas looking at you like, ew, this nigga's a weirdo.
Yep.
Right? And if you wasn't graduating on time, niggas looking at this nigga's a bum. Right? Like, and we had majors, right? And it was we got to, in tech, the beauty of it was we got to make a lot of mistakes in a safe environment. Like, yeah, it was fights and shit like that too, but you got to be a kid in tech and make mistakes and still excel, learn. Like, I took architectural drawing, I took wood shop. I did a lot of cool shit, I learned trades. I did a social science research project where I did a study based on reactions to stories of racial profiling based on race. And it was a very small sample size. I had a homegirl who mom worked in the precinct. So she handed my surveys out to cops.
That's dope.
And then I did like all the analysis of the data. Yeah, I'm a smart. I joke on this camera, but I'm a smart. You know what I'm saying? But I got to do that in like 11th grade.
Yeah.
Right? And I took a bunch of APs, AP History, AP Government. I got 4s and 5s in all of them. And I really got pushed. And at some point I got lazy and bored in my senior year. Like I quit orchestra. Yes, I used to walk around with a fucking violin case. But my senior year, I'm like, yo, my voice got deeper. I got a little bop now. Like, I won't be a nerd no more, right? But the beauty of that was that I was able to have that experience from a young age. And I think that what you're providing is that kind of teaching experience where you're giving kids an injection. Well, not just kids, you're giving educators too, right? The tools with which that, like the tools to then inject hope into kids. Because really, once you believe in a kid and the kid believes in himself, is like they out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever you feed a kid, good or bad, that's who they're going to become. If all you tell them is you ain't shit, they ain't going to feel like they ain't shit, right? If you tell them, yo, sky's the limit, they really going to believe that. And they're going to walk around with that. And what happens, unfortunately, too, is that a lot of our kids get around those educators that are just like, you can't, right? When I was in high school, too, I used to want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a reproductive endocrinologist. Don't ask me why I found that, right? But I wanted to do that. And they said, yo, it's a lot of math. I don't know if you cut for that. I said, all right, well, fuck it. I'm going to switch. And then when I was in Albany, I was trying to do computer science, and my advisor, because, back then you had to talk to somebody and pick your classes.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, well, what classes? I said, yo, I want to graduate early. This and the third. She's like, oh, that's too challenging. Only take 4 classes at a time. Just only do 12 credits. Looking at her like, what's she talking to? So behind her back, I went to the head of the department and took 19 credits.
Nice.
Right? And then I wound up having like a 3.7 GPA. It was tough, but I was focused. And then the next time I had to talk to her to do my registration, she's like, oh, so what's... I said, we're not doing 12. I'm doing these 6 classes here. And she looked in the system. She's like, oh, you took 19 last semester. I said, yeah, from now on, how this works is you just sign my shit.
Right.
Right? But if I would have let her tell me what to do, she would have fucked my whole shit up. It would have cost me more money because I didn't have the option of staying in school forever. Like, loans is running out, and, like, I don't come from a bunch of money, right? So I had to figure it out.
Right.
Right? So I think what you're doing is very important, and educators are very important and very underpaid because what y'all inject into kids in terms of hope and pushing them, y'all also inject into families, right? Like, there's probably kids leaving school like via your program and they going home hopeful, and that's injecting hope into the parents, and the parents like, you know what, I don't feel like going to work today, but Janarlo is happy and hopeful, so I'm gonna do this for them, right? Like, it's a trickle down effect, right? And I think more so than politicians and businessmen and businesswomen, educators are really the people who are the front line for developing our youth.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I don't have the patience for that. Like, if a kid walk down the street and look at me, I'm like, fuck this little dirty nigga looking at. Versus the teachers is like, we have hope for this kid. Right?
Some. So like, it's like you mentioned families. We do what I call family academies. So in this age of AI, our people are being left behind, and not because we don't have access to the tools, but because no one is showing us how to properly use it, right? First of all, everybody want to be an AI innovator. I don't know where that came from, but if you haven't dug deep into AI, you should not call yourself an AI innovator. I don't care how many agents you created. But we do family academies because, as I mentioned, I was an immigrant. I know what it felt like for people to not give my mom information, or to understand that maybe you need to translate this document so that she could better understand it. I took ESL all of my K through 12 experience. And when I got to the high, it was no longer ESL, it was native, which is weird because English was my predominant language. I came when I was 3. But no one gave my mom the option of saying, hey, she could actually test out. She speaks really good English and she writes everything in English. How am I ESL? But I'm also in AP Lit, right? So having those kind of conversations with other parents, I was just like, oh, I need to provide workshops for parents. So schools have PTAs. Guess what? Bring me on and let me do a series of workshops where not only am I teaching them how to leverage AI to ask questions about Title I funding and to understand what is an IEP, but I'm also having them use AI or leverage AI or tech tools to increase literacy, right? Especially within multilingual families. So it's not just the teachers getting workshops. It's not just the students being able to learn how to STEM or code or build robotics or the principals getting feedback from me. It's whatever y'all are learning, I want the parents to learn it, because when that kid misses school, that parent is not able to support depending on what the tools are, right? But if we teach them, we give them access to those same tools, whether if it's Adobe Express for education, whether if it's Reading Coach for reading, they should have that access as a parent, but they should know how to use it. So we do that as well. And educators, we have to understand that we can be inspiring sometimes, and we could be the ones that deflate that bubble, that burst that bubble, right? As I mentioned before, I fault educators and parents for why I had 16 to 21-year-olds. But being 21, teaching 21-year-olds, I was able to have realistic conversations about this shit ain't it. And my favorite line was, yo, I went to college and back and y'all still here. That was my favorite line. And they hated that. And I would go, so what you gonna do next? Because we the same age. And you talk about when we going out, I can't go out with my students. Who partying? And we from the same neighborhood, and I know your sister. We partying. And so those were ways where I'll get them like, oh yeah, we out. Where we studying? I did Miss V's brunch. So I would have kids come into the building on Sundays. I gave kids these black and white invites. I used the same invites every single year. It was a card. And the kids who were serious about passing the Regents, the Sunday before Regents Week began, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., we studying. I would have my kids do 1,000 multiple choice questions. I would have them write 16 essays. My kids were passing 98s, 99s. They could tell y'all. When this goes live, just tell them to put what their score was when I was a teacher.
Put it in the chat.
Put
it in the chat. They'll tell
fire.
you 98s, 99s. And these are the kids that have taken the Regents exam, specifically U.S. History Regents exam 3, 4, 5 times. And then they take it with me, 98, 99. So it works, right? You just got to believe that they can do it. I didn't have that mindset of, damn, you failed 8 times and now you my student. No, I had the mindset of, you in this class, you about to learn. I don't care what attitude you got. I used to do this 5-minute break. So they come in, I give them 5 minutes. So for 5 minutes, don't talk to me. Is music playing? Is a do now on the board? That's mostly a multiple choice question. Don't talk to me.
Shout out to the do now.
Shout out to the do now. Don't talk to me for 5 minutes. And when that timer go off, full speed ahead. But that was a routine that they knew. So when they came in, I don't care why you late. Come in, sit down, sit wherever you want, right? And we had that culture. And of course, you're going to have it where some students are like, oh, yo, I hated her. But they hated me because I was one of those teachers. I'm not rubbing your back. I'm not asking, oh, baby, how you doing?
And you 21 anyway, nigga.
We got 6 months.
And you 21, no shade rubbing your back, nigga.
We got 6 months before you age out. Like, I felt that sense of urgency. Them failing was me failing.
So, where was you at when I failed my road test 3 times? And
you should have took it in Long Island like I did.
I got kicked out. Story to a tangent, but I got kicked out of Red Hook. Like, I took it to Starrett, failed right over there on Flatlands. Fucking bitch, failed me. I failed.
Right? I felt that, and I was just like, let me just look.
Nah, because my cousin over there.
You failed yourself.
My cousin over there was like, yo, you passed this joint, you can hold my whip. So I had plans to already be driving and all that. And we turned down Van Sicklen. And on Van Sicklen and Cozine, she said make another left. But where she said it was a bus coming. So I went to make the turn. She's like, yo, it's a bus. You don't see the bus? I said, yeah, I see the bus. But I didn't know you're supposed to wait for the bus to go past first. This bitch fucking failed me. Immediate failure.
You put her life in danger.
Immediate failure. I was tight. I went to Red Hook then. And I felt like back then, they was purposely trying to fail you. Like, I went to Red Hook, and in Red Hook, a lot of the streets didn't have like the line in the middle, but they'll purposely make you turn down these streets, and if you didn't turn in a way that was like a two-way, it was failing you. So I did that, and the chick was like, yo, this is a two-way street. If they start like writing shit, they failing you. So I got tight. I drove the car on the sidewalk and parked that shit. I said, fuck this shit. She's like, what are you doing? I said, yo, you trying to fail me? Fuck it, I'm not driving. Drove the shit on the fucking on the sidewalk. And then they say, yo, he can't take the test here no more. So I wound up having to take the test in fucking Queens by the Van Wyck. And I passed that time, but where was you at to help me pass my road test? I needed that.
I don't know.
I need my back rubbed, but I needed.
I'm here now.
I needed support.
I'm here now. I'm doing the same work now, just on a larger scale. But I'm here. Maybe it may not be for you, but it may be for your kids, or it might be for your next door neighbor's kids, or that
I
school.
don't like my neighbor. On this side.
Then it's school, right? I'm trying to bring the peace back into the room. Where is it? Where's the harmony?
I'm triggered. Like,
where's the harmony?
Lord.
See?
No, but that's really incredible, right? And I think that I would love for you to talk to my PTA, because we need more resources like that. And what I see a lot of times too is that a lot of families who have the means. Like in the current day and time, back in the day there was Pepper Prep, Alva Scholars, that kind of stuff. But a lot of families didn't necessarily take advantage of that, because every kid is not built for boarding school. Every kid is not built for those independent schools. Because back then culturally it's almost like it was like a poor door that was invisible. It was like, all right, you're a scholarship kid, or you're a prep kid, whatever. Now, what I keep hearing a lot of is that culturally there's a lot more people like you on these school boards and at these schools that are ingrained in these schools. So culturally it's very different, right? And a lot of families with the means are pushing more to go to independent schools versus public schools by like grade 6, right? And I think it's not a wrong choice, right? Because my family that has been to these schools, these kids are in 6th grade and they're getting progress reports. Janarlo loves reading and math, and they're teaching these kids not how to pass a test, but critical thinking. So it's Socratic teaching to force them to critically think and challenge and push leadership, right?
Yeah.
And learning that from 6th grade, by the time you get to, high school or college, you're not thinking, I want to one day work for a company. It's like, what can I disrupt? What can I do to create my own, right? I think on a macro level, you're definitely needed, because even like with my kids at school, they're doing well, they're in the G&T, all that kind of stuff. But my daughter has like 14, 15 kids in her class, right? I know other kids who got like 28 kids in their class.
I used to teach 36 to 42 students in a class.
And my daughter has, on some days, there's only 10 kids in the class, right? And they do what they want. Like, not on some bullshit, but on some, the teacher, he's shown up on some chill shit. Like, they joke with him, and like in his lessons, he's like, okay, so we have to move the 6 to the 7, 6, 7. But he's saying it like in a dry, funny kind of way. But because his energy is so dry, funny, dad jokey, it's hitting. He loves teaching. They love him. And then I look down the line at drop off, and it's another kid. Ramel, come here. And you see the energy is different. Even my son, he's in 1st grade. His teacher, old school, soon as she walks up, the kids, almost like in, what was that? That Malcolm X movie, where he turned his hand and they all turn. Soon as she walk up, they line up and just go. She ain't got to say shit to them. I look down the line, and this kid's fighting 7 o'clock in the morning in 1st grade. And every kid got a para. So those kids' days very different than the other class where the teacher is very chill, right? But I think your kind of energy and what you're doing needs to be put on a macro level, because like our kids need it, right? And that school to prison pipeline is real, right?
It
like
still exists.
The schools, I tell people all the time, the schools in the city look just like the jails upstate. Right?
Absolutely.
Like that lunchroom, like it baffled me. I went on a prison visit years ago, and I walked in. I'm like, this shit looks like it's almost like the G building, right? is at Kasaki. I'm like, this looks like the G building a little bit. All right, whatever. But I get on the visiting floor. I'm like, yo, this shit looks like a fucking school cafeteria. The same, like the tables was different, but everything about it felt like a school cafeteria.
Because they're one and the same, right? I mentioned earlier that a lot of the things that were created were not created with us in mind. And that includes even the structure of these educational institutions. You have it where by third grade, they know how many prisons to create. They know how much more students or how many more students are going to fail and eventually create or kind of like do a crime and end up in jail. They know this data. It's not data that you can't find on the internet, right? You talked about the school to prison pipeline. It is very much evident that from that third and sixth grade test, when your kid fails, parents, they already know how many of them are going to end up in jail. And obviously times have changed a bit where people believe that because you are an influencer and your kid is vlogging about their day-to-day life, that that's going to help. What that has done is just increase suicidal rates, because now we're seeing students committing suicide or kids committing suicide because they're mostly dependent on how other people on the internet see them, right? So we kind of like created a shift in our students' mental, but also what we have to prepare our students for. Institutions are crazy. I get the opportunity to work with institutions around the world. I see the difference from the campus, from how the educators say good morning, right? Working at a school where students got scanned to get in, and even in most New York City schools, students get scanned. I have a 4-year-old. My daughter started school at the age of 3. We put her in private school first. And you see the difference. With private school, I had the lesson plans in my email. I knew exactly what standards my daughter hit as a 3-year-old. I knew standards. I knew what alphabets we had, what letters we had to go through, right? This year, because that was very costly, this year we put her in public school, but there's still a difference. The teacher, she comes in and they're like, Mackenzie. She's like, hi, Miss Sam. But the way they kind of like say, hey, come to class. And she's like, okay. I love it. Is she learning? Hell yeah. But she's learning because it's a welcoming space. She doesn't feel like somebody stopping her at the door. Take off your belt. Take off your backpack. Let me see. You don't have a notebook? You got to get sent home. At one point, education, especially in Brooklyn, schools were the place to be. What you mean I got to go home because I don't got a fucking notebook? Like, I just feel like we have so many things in place that are relevant to or in comparison to prisons, right? You're sending a kid home because they have incomplete homework, as opposed to saying, well, what part did you or your parents need help with? You're sending them home because they don't have a book bag. The fuck? Maybe I left it on the bus yesterday and my mother can't afford it again until she gets paid on Friday. Or maybe I left it in my mother's car. There's instances where, so my daughter's school is required for them to have the water bottle. The school only gives them water and milk. I love it. And it's like that in most schools in Long Island, well, schools that my daughter goes to. And I forgot her water bottle. And the nurse was like, hey, this is Nurse Jen. Just letting you know, Mackenzie doesn't have a water bottle, but we'll give her a plastic water bottle. And I told her dad, and he doesn't like plastic water bottles, so he drove. But those are my biggest challenges. Not if you dislike my kid or you cursing my kid out or you read the IEP and you're like, shit, this kid really ain't going to learn. The IEP is meant for you to make the necessary steps as a teacher, but then to also communicate with the parent who may be lost, right? We put too much on these parents as well to say, well, that's your fucking kid. You're supposed to know. Sometimes these parents who might be uneducated didn't get that chance to learn that. And so there's so many gaps in what we do. We have a new program called STEM for Change. I definitely wanted to give a shout out to my team here in the U.S., in Texas, in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, New Zealand, and Nigeria. We went live with this in January, but it's to equip student athletes with workforce development.
Love it.
All right. So it's still STEM, but the idea is with student athletes, we're missing so much when it comes down to academics. We have colleges, even at the higher education level, colleges are forcing student athletes to take, in my opinion, some of the dumbest majors just because they want them to spend more time on the court or the playing field or the swimming pool. And then when they graduate, no one's hiring that degree. nobody even knows what kind of job you could get with that degree that your coach made you take or your advisor pushed you to take. And so with us is, if I could provide student athletes with industry certifications in middle school and high school, you already know what you want to be. If basketball doesn't work, if you're not part of that 2% that's going to go pro, or swimming doesn't work, volleyball, we have soccer players that work with us. If none of that works, you can fall back on your cybersecurity industry certification. You could fall back on your AI fundamentals industry certification. And now we have the entrepreneurial small business certification. So if you prototype something and you're like, I really want people to invest in this, guess what? You already ahead of the game. You could create your small business just with that certification in middle school.
No, I love that. And I think everything you're saying makes a lot of sense, right? Like the one of my pet peeves with educators sometimes is the educator that yells, even coaches that yell, right? Like, I'm iffy on coaches yelling. Part of me is like, I had coaches that yelled. It didn't bother me as much, right? Like, but I think age appropriate yelling, like, I think if you're yelling at high school, it's different.
Yeah.
But if you're yelling at like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, like, that shit is weak sauce, right? But in my kids' school, like, my kids go to the same school, but for a while, my son was in an annex first, and then he aged into the main building. And the first time, on the first day of school, he saw his sister at lunch and went to give her a hug, and his teacher yelled at him, "Yo, get back over there. What are you doing?" And I heard about it, right? Daughter came home, "Daddy, blah, 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 yelled at KJ." And me and my friends felt so bad. And one of my friends was like, "You can't yell at KJ like that." So I would go to him and say, "Yo, how was your day?" "Oh, it was all right." I said, "Anything happened today?" "Well, kind of. This guy yelled at me, but I was just trying to say hi to Cameron." So I'm like, "Wait, who?" Next day, go to school, because I was right now, I can tell a story kind of funny, but I was tight. I'm like, This nigga, what? Yo, my fucking son, like, what? Beat this nigga the fuck up, like, fuck out of here, right? Like, it was all that kind of energy.
Yeah.
Next day, I go there, and my wife was like, "Yo, don't do no dumb shit, because, obviously you do some dumb shit at school, now you can't come back to the school." Like, so I'm like, all right. And I was, prior to that, it's funny, I was cool with the guy before that, right? So I see son, and I pick up my son, and I purposely walk over to him, and a part of on this shoulder was like, "Yo, smack that nigga." This shoulder was like, "Yo, listen, be logical here," because, so I'm like, "Hey, how's it going, man?" So, "Oh, everything's good." I say, "Oh, so I heard you met my son. Here he is." "Oh, hi, yeah.
One of those.
Yeah, I met him, but I was looking for the tough.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted that."
You're not gonna get it.
So I was like,
Because you're the parent.
I'm like, "Oh, so we're good?" I said, "Cage, you good?" "Yeah, I'm okay." I'm like, "Oh, you have a nice day now, right?" But I wanted him to feel the discomfort, because I'm like, you yelled at a fucking kid for saying, and the thing about it is that my son is not a disruptive kid. He was literally saying hi. And it was, get back in line, and to your same point, right? Like, that's jail shit. Like, get in line, on the count, all that other dumb shit is like, these kids are not meant to be put in, like, treated like cattle, shepherded from class to class, and all that other dumb shit, which is another reason why I think you have a very valid program. I also want to get you tapped into some of the colleges I know, because I think it's important. Like, student athletes, you were a student athlete. I do think that that 2% is real. Like, not everybody's going to the league, whatever league, whether it's pickleball, lacrosse,
Or
right?
any pro league.
I had a classmate who swam at Louisville, as she called it. I say Louisville, but Louisville. And she missed the Olympics by like a tenth of a second. And she was the best swimmer in her county in school. That's so hard. Like, at that level, the difference between, the next level is like a tenth of a second.
Yeah.
And she was like, her teammates were like Ryan Lochte. So on the men's side, her teammates went to the Olympics. She was supposed to go to on the women's side and missed about a tenth of a fucking second. And she was all county, all like won every possible award and all that kind of stuff.
That's the reality.
And I try to tell people too, it's just like I was okay in basketball, right? but my teammates, some of them went to the NBA, some played D1, but all they did was basketball. I'm granted, some niggas was like 6'7" as well, 6'8", right? But I didn't love basketball enough to do that shit like that. And even now, being a baseball coach, I'm seeing like, yo, you got to do this shit. Granted, baseball is different because you got to do that shit like damn near every day, right? But the amount of reps that you got to do outside the sport to then show up and dominate, talent or not, is crazy. And then even if you dominating here, right? Like if you're great in baseball in Brooklyn, the Jersey kids is going to spank you. And if you spanking the Jersey kids, the kids in Florida going to spank them, or California going to spank them. And Virginia, and then they'll get spanked by the kids from Panama and Venezuela and DR, who for them, well, not Panama, for DR,
Right.
some of these kids, this is life or death. So that they not taking no shorts, right? Like this is how they gonna get Abuela out that hut. Well, not that hut, but like that small town.
We knew what you were talking
Yeah,
about.
right. Yeah. So there's always gonna be a certain kind of level, and it's just like you don't know how hard you're going until you face challenges or adversity. So I think everything you're saying is on point. I did want to ask, how do you balance family and your career? Because on the gram, you're always traveling, you're always on the road, and you do have a daughter, right? So how do you balance all of that and keep your sanity and make sure that you're doing what you got to do
Oh
at
my
home?
God. Listen, in these past 3 years of having my business, we're making 4 years this year. I've cried only once as it relates to business. And that's because, for Mother's Day, they normally have the kids fill out stuff. And like my daughter it was like, what's mommy's favorite thing to do? She said, work. What's mommy good at? She said, work. And I cried. Like the teacher gave it to me, oh my God, look, Mackenzie. And I was like, well, first of all, she said I was 1 year old. A lie. She got my age wrong, but her father's right. But it said work and work. And I had to think about the fact that all she sees me doing is work because I don't have an office. I use my home office, right? So when she's home, she sees mommy at work. I wake up sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning to present. I have presentations sometimes 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. I get her ready for school, drop her off, and then I got a meeting again, or I'm driving to Brooklyn, or I'm driving to Uniondale, or I'm driving wherever. That's all she sees. I think last year I did a really good job at making sure that all she's seeing is not just work. So like she comes in, we do painting. There's these like $5 things from Target. I know y'all said don't shop at Target. I shop at Target. Really cool activity. So if you're like a single parent and you're trying to figure out ways to engage your kid beyond just having them do academic stuff, I buy these little things. They have them all the time, $5, and I buy 4, and we paint. And I have conversations with her, right? We cook. When I cook, she's always like, Mommy, can I help? Absolutely. Get on your little stool, pour the rice in. And so I'm better. But 2 years ago, if you would have asked me this question, I would have said work, 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 because I was literally trying to make a name for myself beyond just the tech space. It was like, I'm back in education, but I'm not a teacher no more. I'm a CEO of a company and I need to make moves. I now structure my time where if I can't be there, then her dad is there to do something fun too, right? So we are very intentional with learning is fun, but we're fun as parents. And my struggles or the attitude that I have, or if somebody did something they weren't supposed to do on my staff, that has nothing to do with my daughter. When I'm home, it's 100% about Mackenzie. Plus, my daughter, because the business is named after my daughter. People around the world know Mackenzie, and Mackenzie has only been to Panama and Costa Rica. But if you were to ask a student in Nigeria, who's Mackenzie Logan, they know her already, right? Even in the coding space. But the idea is that when she gets older, she'll know that I've created kind of like this legacy for her. You have a business, you have a series of books that 100% is owned by my daughter, right? I use her name for everything. But we do read aloud. So schools pay for us to come in and read our book.
Fine. And
she sits next to me and she has a speaker. And I remember last year doing a read aloud and she told the girl, she was like, shh, my mommy's reading. And in my mind, I'm just like, damn, we getting paid for this. Like, come on, girl. But I was like, she's right? And we've done book fairs before together. So I want to expose her to that. So there's going to be certain situations where mommy has to be away. And there's others where if I could bring you along so that you can see this, so that you could be comfortable with people looking at you, so that you could be comfortable with, there's situations where I'm the only Black person speaking to people, right? I've been to Alaska. I've keynoted a lot of places where I'm the only person of color in the room. And so to have her there too is like, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? You're going to be put in situations where you are the only woman in tech, because I think my daughter's going to be in tech. But if she goes a different route, you're going to be one of the youngest CEOs. What kind of conversations are you going to have with people to say, yes, my mom passed this on, but this is how I was able to scale and move the company forward. So putting her in places where she's comfortable around people who make really huge decisions. She doesn't know that yet, right? But girl, do you know that the CEO of this company has just shaken your hand and said that they have all 3 of your books and they've read it to their kids? For me, that's a blessing.
Fire.
And that's how I balance it. Yeah.
Fire. So, very spirited conversation. Definitely appreciate your time. Drop your socials and tell them where they can find your products, your company name, all that kind of good stuff.
So we have a website. It's McKenzie'sAdventures.com. And you could also follow us on Instagram at McKenzie's Adventures, same with LinkedIn. But my personal Instagram is at Yartiza.V __. And then we also have one for our STEM for Change program that we just launched in January, which is at STEM _for _change.
Perfect. And how we end this is with parting words. So, do you have any parting words for the people?
Yeah. If you have an idea for a business, go for it. Even if you don't have any money, I feel like there's so many of us, especially people of color, who have ideas, and that may be shot down by your friend because you decided to fucking share that idea at the bar and they don't know no better. If you have an idea, you have to go for it. I can't count how many people told me not to quit the DOE when I quit, who told me not to leave Microsoft when I left, who literally told me not to leave Samsung when I left because all they were thinking about was that stable income, when I knew that I had a voice that needed to be elevated and encouraged everywhere I go. And I don't speak all these different languages, but I'm embraced by people of different cultures around the world. And so you gotta take that first step and calm the bullshit noise down and do what you gotta do.
Damn, that's powerful. I was gonna say some funny shit, but
I'm sorry. Y'all want me to be funny? Hey.
I feel like no, but that security blanket. I think people chase security coming out of poverty. They want the security, the pension, get vested, whatever. Which is that's okay too. But I think sometimes that security is the price you pay to suppress who you truly are, right? Yeah. And it's just like what you do most naturally is what you're meant to do.
Yeah, I mean, and how many people hate their jobs? How many people look at their managers and be like, yo, I just did that and now you presented it as your own, to about the fucking team did it when I stayed up 12 hours to do that, right? Those are conversations that I didn't have it with Microsoft because I loved my team at Microsoft, but those were the conversations I was having with Samsung. In my mind, like, bro, I just drove 4 hours for a 30-minute pitch for Samsung to pitch on tech, and then I got to drive 4 hours back, and then you want me to join this meeting to talk about what? So if I got a question why I'm doing something, I don't need to be in that room. I don't need to be in that space. With having my own business, the only thing I'm questioning is what's next? What's the next region? What's the next school? How do we scale this? Does it work? Does it not work? What are we doing with student athletes? All right. We're a Brooklyn Youth Sports Club right now. I just had a conversation with a huge company in Malawi. So really looking at how do we take it to Malawi? How do we prepare those tennis players for our program? It's always about elevation. Always.
Love that. Love that. My parting words are: it's getting warm outside. Make sure you go get some money and a good deodorant, right? I don't want to be on the train. I don't want to be in the train with y'all smelling crazy. And also, it's okay to smoke your cheap weed outside the train, right?
Amen.
Because I keep getting on the train. And
you should have saved me for last. Because what? What?
Yo, people be on the train smoking and...
I the only thing I take is the LIRR, and they can't be smoking on the LIRR.
Nah, listen, on the D train, these niggas coming from the Bronx be with their ski mask on, rolling up, smoking, and they look at you like they dare you to say something. Where I'm at now in life is I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna change train cars, right?
That's adulting.
Yeah, because it's like you have nothing to lose, and you clearly don't care about life. If you're smoking in Midtown at 5 o'clock, you don't. It is cheap. It's cheap weed too, but you clearly don't care about you. So I know you don't care about me.
Right.
And make sure on top of that, if you got kids, you go buy some books by McKenzie's Adventures too.
That's right.
Over and out.